Hello, YouTube. This is Mitch, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the life of George Washington Carver. He is well known to you, and he is well known for being a scientist and for creating products using peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans. I call him the Peanut Man. Now, without further ado, with that out of the way, I'm going to tell you all about and some things about George Washington Carver. Let's begin. George Washington Carver was born on a farm near Diamond, Missouri in about 1865. His mother, Mary Washington, was a slave owned by Moses and Susan Carver. His father, a slave on a neighboring farm, died before George was born. Moses Carver, the white farmer, had purchased George Carver's mother, Mary, when she was 13 years old. Moses Carver reportedly was against slavery, but needed help with his 240-acre farm. Over time, his wife Susan Carver developed a close friendship with a slave named Mary Washington. Shortly after Mary Washington gave birth to George, a group of night raiders kidnapped her and the baby. Susan was distraught over the loss of her friend and sent out word to learn what had become of her and the infant. Several days later, Moses was able to set up a meeting with the night raiders at a crossroads to the north. He rode several hours on horseback and met four of the men who showed up carrying torches and wearing burlap sacks over their heads with holes cut out for their eyes so they can see. He traded his horse for what they threw him in a dirty bag. As the men thundered off on their horses, Moses got down on his knees, opened the bag, and took a baby out. The baby was cold and nearly dead, and he put that frightened child inside of his coat next to his skin and wrapped him tightly, talking to him during the long walk home. He and Susan vowed to raise that baby as their own child and even educate him. They gave that little boy their own family name, keeping his last name as his middle name in honor of his mother, who perished in the raid. So George grew up knowing little about his mother or his father. He was a frail and sickly child who could not help with field work. Instead, Susan taught him how to cook, mend, embroider, do laundry, and even garden, as well as how to concoct simple herbal medicines. At a young age, Carver took a keen interest in plants and he became known as the plant doctor to local farmers because of his ability to discern how to improve the health of their gardens, fields, and orchards. Susan Carver taught George how to read and write at home, and when he was 11 years old, he left the farm to attend an all black school in the nearby town of Neosho. So he was taken in by a childless African American couple named Andrew and Mariah Watkins. They provided him with a roof over his head in exchange for help with household chores. So Mariah, who is a midwife and a nurse, imparted on Carver and her broad knowledge of medicinal herbs and her devout faith. Disappointed with the education he received at the Neosho school, Carver moved from one Midwestern town to another Midwestern town, putting himself through school and surviving off the domestic skills he learned from his previous foster mothers. He graduated from Minneapolis High School in Minneapolis, Kansas, not Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that was in 1880. So then by the late 1880s, he moved to Winterest, Iowa, where friends John and Helen Milholland encouraged him to enroll in college. He earned his bachelor's degree in 1894 and a graduate degree 2 years later from the State Agricultural College at Ames, Iowa. Then in 1896, George Washington Carver left Iowa to take a job with Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. There, he conducted agricultural research and even taught students. By this time, George Washington Carver became a well known and a world famous chemist and scientist. Carver's research and instructions helped poor farmers throughout the world change their farming practices and improve their diets. From ordinary peanuts that he made, hundreds of useful products, including milk, cheese, soap, and grease. Let's not forget the peanut oil. He also made over 100 products from sweet potatoes. Though he was offered positions at many other laboratories, Carver had always declined them, preferring to continue his work among his own race at Tuskegee until his death on January 5th, 1943. So about his death, one day when he was returning home, he took a bad fall down a flight of stairs, and he was found by an unconscious maid who took him to a hospital. So he died from complications of anemia from that fall. And he was buried right next to Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee University, excuse me. So on his grave, a phrase was written, and it was, quote, "He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world," unquote. Now I'm going to tell you some of the honors that he had. So in 1941, a museum was named after him called the George Washington Carver Museum, and it was dedicated at the Tuskegee Institute. And I want to give a shout out to those who work at the museum. And then in 1943, there was a Liberty ship called the SS George Washington Carver, and it was launched in 1943. And the George Washington Carver Museum, was dedicated in 1941, just to let you know. He was an honorary doctorate from Simpson's College, and that was 1928. There was a state park named after him in 1950, and that state park was in the state of Georgia. And that was about it. That's all the honors that I'm going to give you. That was some honors. You're going to have to find a complete list of honors on the internet somewhere. So my thoughts are, wow. He changed the world. From what he knew, from using peanuts, from using the sweet potatoes and everything. And it's mind-boggling. It's amazing on how somebody could change the world. And this would bring me to a poem that I read at my high school graduation back in 2014. And the name of the poem is called Just One, and it's by an anonymous writer. And it says, "One song can spark a moment. One flower can wake the dream. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald spring. One smile begins a friendship. One hand clap lifts a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame the goal. One vote can change a nation. One sunbeam lights a room. One candle wipes out darkness. One laugh can conquer gloom. One step can start a journey. One word can start a prayer. One hope can raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can speak with wisdom. One heart can know what's true. One life can make the difference. You see, it's up to you." Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, but I'm going to leave it with this. just think about what George did. Think about how he changed the world, and that's pretty much it right there that I'm gonna leave you with. So subscribe to me, share this on Facebook, share this on Twitter, share this anywhere, and let me know in the comments on what you think.